Hi, my name is Lucia and welcome back to my channel. And I have a confession to make, or rather an explanation, I guess. Yeah, explanation. So where is my August video? It was filmed about my July books, but then I don't know. I just never uploaded it and never even edited it. And the closer we came to the end of August, so I was like, something just kind of didn't feel right about what I have filmed back in the beginning of August for my July books, and so I never uploaded anything in August, as you know. And that's why we're here now. And I do have my August reads with me for the September video, and I also have my iPad, so I can now one more time for you the first time talk about the books that I read in July. And yeah, that's what we're going to do. Just a little quick, bear with me. I might need a little cuts here and there in this video when maybe I need to reread a few things that I myself wrote about, especially the books I read in July, because now we are in September, and my goal is to upload this video today. So right now I'm filming this as of September 8th, and I hope it will be live September 8th. It's probably going to be a bit longer since I have to talk about more books. But yeah, hey, let's get going. So I do want to go chronologically. So I'm going to start with what I read in July. And let me find the first one that I finished. That's what I thought. That was Baptism of Fire, The Witcher 3. Right, yeah. I started that one in June, but I finished it in July. So, The Witcher, Baptism of Fire by Andrzej Sapkowski. This one was not my favorite, so to speak. But one thing, and this is something I don't now remember if I said that in a previous Witcher novel as well, but like the title, Baptism of Fire, is constantly mentioned. And it's just, I don't know, it just ripped me out constantly from the narrative. Like, it just felt so unnatural. Like, people would say it in dialogues, they would say to each other, it's a baptism of fire, and that's like such a specific sentence. It just didn't really, yeah, it just pulled me out. And it wasn't just like once or twice or something, or constantly. It was like 10, 20 times in the book this sentence is mentioned, to the point where I was like, okay. So the more often it became mentioned, the more often I had to roll my eyes. Other than that, so we are continuing Geralt's journey and with Ciri. Now I believe this is the one. Now is when I need to double check that I'm not, because now the Witcher books start to blend into each other. I don't remember what was novel 3, what was novel 4, but I think this is the one where we it's after the Time of Contempt, when we had the battle at Thanet. And let me double check that. So maybe I'll cut out as I'm reading a few things. Like I said, please bear with me. Yes, okay. Yes, so I'm right. So we had a battle. I don't want to spoil the Time of Contempt, but we had a battle. And at the end of that battle, Geralt's actually quite injured. And we start with him being injured, and he's recovering in Brockleham Forest. So back to Brockleham Forest, and there we have a new girl introduced to us called Milva. But then basically Geralt hears through Milva actually the rumor that Nilfgaard has Ciri, that Emperor Emir von Emreis is planning to marry her. And so he's like, fuck healing, let's go, I have to save her. And then Milva follows him. We don't really know her reasoning, but we do get that later. I really enjoy that. And so we have, I would say this book is more Geralt focused than Ciri. Is that fair? Or it's maybe 50-50. Because Ciri, she's hanging around with a group of like mischiefs. They're called the rats, and she herself is not really behaving in a way that I enjoy, let's just say that, which is one of the reasons why I took half a star. So I give this 3.5 stars, and I took half a star away because Siri for me wasn't fun to read because it was annoying to see her, even though, like, I don't want to say that it didn't make sense, it's just personal preference. Like, I didn't enjoy those parts. However, on the other hand, Geralt and his group was very entertaining because we started with Milva, as I mentioned, and Dandelion is also there. He even went to Brooklyn Forest, even though that could mean he's deaf, because they usually shoot humans on sight that get close to the forest. But he dared anyway. He sang in Elvish. That was a really cool sequence. So Dandelion's also there. So we start with 3, and then suddenly we meet some dwarves. Then we travel with dwarves, and then the dwarves go on their separate ways and meet someone else. And it's just that's the grand part. And they become like really this kind of band of adventurers together. So that was really enjoyable, which is why it was very difficult for me to give it a 3.5 rather than a 4-star. But I just had my gripes with it, and I didn't. So I felt like I have to be honest here. But it's still a very, very good book. Again, like especially the Geralt parts are very nice. So what is it about? Geralt on his journey tried to save Ciri, but Ciri is not actually there, and Ciri in herself is adventuring and is experiencing, shall we say, the criminal side of life. And it all ends in a baptism of fire. So obviously I don't want to spoil the ending. I'm gonna leave it at that. So that was Baptism of Fire, the 3rd Witcher novel, not counting the short story collections. And then right after that, I also read The Tower of the Swallow, the novel number 4 by Andrzej Sapkowski. This one, now we again, I need to, where was the cut in the story? Because I remember the full story, but I'm like, okay, when did it switch from book 3 to book 4? So give me a moment. Okay, no, I was right. Okay. So, in the beginning here, I think we even started with Ciri, which is actually a thing that I noticed that Sapkowski does now in more novels. He somehow jump into the future in like the first chapter. And then often we have Ciri or Geralt or someone else telling us how we got there. It wasn't in Baptism of Fire, no, because then we started in Brooklyn Forest, which is now time. But here, and then also in the book that I'm currently reading, that's why I'm saying he seems to be doing that from now on. We jump into the future where we know Ciri is very, very injured. That's literally the first page, so this is not a spoiler. And someone finds her and nurses her, and then she's telling that person how this happened. And his name is Visigotta. I am not sure how to pronounce that. In my head it was Visigotta. Maybe that's completely wrong. But anyway, and I really like the interactions between him and Ciri. That was very, very interesting and very cool. Because it wasn't just her telling what's happening and then we go back to like regular chapters. We also have like intermissions, if you will, with those two, when those two interact with each other on what we've just learned and what we've just heard. So Ciri and her band of rats get into huge trouble and big shit happens, which leads to where we know the book starts with her being injured. So again, I don't really want to spoil that. That was very interesting, and Ciri went through some serious shit, like not fun to read. Still in the what shall I say, like me as a woman, it was still okay to read. Does that make sense? I hope so. It was still okay, but yeah, she goes through some really, really bad shit. And on Geralt side, and I believe that was in the end of the previous book, and it's good those two books are just after each other. So when he figured out that Ciri is not in fact in Nilfgaard, which we knew, again, that is not a spoiler because we are with Ciri in that book, and so plans change. Instead, they're trying to just find her, and they have an idea to ask some druids. And at the end of that's when, at the end of the previous, that's when they found that out. So here they are basically changing course, going somewhere else. We have constantly different struggles with Nilfgaard after them, but also because very shortly they joined one of the armies in the war, because at the same time the war with Nilfgaard and the northern kingdoms is happening. I completely forgot to mention that, but yes, that is also still happening, and we hear a lot about that, and we see a lot of the fallout, especially all the abandoned dead villages, burned down villages, and lots of dead and bodies, and terrible. So in the previous book, actually, because they helped, Geralt is in fact dubbed a Knight of Rivia. So now he actually deserves his title, Geralt of Rivia, because he made that up. He was never obviously knighted, he's a witcher. But now he has it. Now he's officially Geralt of Rivia. I really love that. That happened in the previous book. So in this book, so they're like kind of sort of fleeing from both sides, as quote-unquote deserters / Nilfgaard, hunting them for they obviously want Ciri and things like that. So we have our group of friends. Can I say that? I think so. Having their adventures, traveling along, trying to figure out things. We even add one more in this book into the group, which in the beginning I was like, nah, she doesn't fit, not really. But by now I warmed up to her, and it all ends up. No, I can't say that. Obviously, we come to a certain climax, a certain clash with certain characters, but then, very interestingly enough, we hear several times that we are close to Toussaint, and me as a Witcher 3 game player knows, of course, about Toussaint, so I was very excited about that. But that's basically where we then end this book. Climax behind us, girl injured again, but also is that in this book or is that no? That's in book 4. He meets a certain special elf, shall we say, that can give him some information about Ciri. That was also very excited, especially as a game player, knowing exactly who this character is. So this one I gave 4, maybe even 4.5 stars. I really like this one. That was more like in the previous one, like I said, what I really enjoyed was the band, Geralt's band of friends. They're so entertaining and they just play so well off each other. And in this one, I felt this even more. And in this one, it sounds weird, but I enjoyed Ciri's side more because she was more herself again, rather than just being a petty criminal that robs an elderly lady of her jewelry. Things like that. So that was book number 2 that I finished in July, and after that I read The Collapsing Empire by John Scalzi, and I actually have behind me the second one. So the books are already shelved because I had already filmed the video, so I didn't want to take them out of the shelves again. But this is the second book that I will read, so it's not this one, by John Scalzi. I'm not 100% sure how to pronounce that. Collapsing Empire. So this is a sci-fi. It has like a different kind of world building, I guess, specifically relating to time travel. Oh, not time travel, sorry. I mean faster than light travel. Since instead of light speed and zoom, and then they can just go through. In their universe, there's something what they call the flow, and the flow is like this natural phenomena in space, which is then basically like light speed channels. But these channels, as they say, it's a flow, so they just go from point 1 to point B, and that's it. So you can only do these faster than light travels inside this flow. And so they call this empire the interdependency, because so we have like different sometimes planets, sometimes space stations, and I think it's actually only one planet now that I think about it. I think the rest is space stations / meteors, or stations built into meteors, on different like locations in this flow. And it's not so much as a spider net, as mostly goes like in one direction and then backwards, and then has certain exits and stuff like that. And well, some of them go slightly diagonal, and basically the hub of all of this flow is where the emperor sits. And from there, and it's called the interdependency because it said like every little station needs something the other one has. So like they provide each other with trade, and trade is like one of the hugest things. There's like also slightly fantasy like houses, if you will, that have like big parts of this trade, and thus they are the rich ones. And also they have the most influence on the emperor. The emperor is the sole ruler, but there is like a sort of a council. Yeah, a council. I'm not sure if that is the exact word that they use, but you know what I mean. But in the end, the emperor holds the ultimate power. And so in the book, we get a new emperor. Now I don't remember her name. So let me see if I can find that, otherwise I might even need to go find the book. Okay, I found some of the names, but not all, so I guess we have to live with that for now. So Cardania is the name of the... She's actually a bastard child of the emperor, so different mom. And he, in the very beginning of the book, is very sick and then dies, and so she becomes new emperor. And by the way, this is one gripe that I had. In this book, it's called Emperox. Do you know why? I don't know either. So I just stumbled over that word every single time it came up. Emperox. It just sounds so stupid, I'm sorry. To me, it just sounds so stupid. Like if you wanted a different word for the universe, like universox, or I don't know, interdependox, or whatever. It sounds also stupid, but if it was a completely different word, I probably would have accepted it, right? So like this is what they call their ruler in the interdependency. But because it was basically emperor, but changed to rocks in the end, I'm like, what? So in my head, I had to start like telling myself to read it as emperor, because otherwise I might would have put the book away. So yeah, so I will keep saying emperor, just as a FYI. So yes, so if I'm not completely wrong, I think her house is the house Wu, Cardania. So she becomes emperor, and well, stuff doesn't go so well. Assassination attempts very early on, and she has to deal with basically the one planet that's called End, because it's at the end of the flow, is like very normal to have civil wars and revolts, and they replace their king constantly, or like every decade or so, and that is currently ongoing. So she has to deal with that. She has to deal with, well, funeral, coronation, and also there is this other family, I do have that here, Nohamepatan, I think, who wants to marry her, because obviously she's a female now being emperor, and everyone expects her to marry for that. So we have like that kind of dealing. At the same time, so we have different POVs. At the same time, we are on End with several POVs. First, in the prologue, we just arrived there with one random ship that accidentally left the flow or got pushed out or something like that. And then they had to rush back in, and they just made it. But then that tells us, I mean, the title is The Collapsing Empire. So what they basically discover, I don't think that's a spoiler because that is in the blur. This flow seems to be not as stable as they thought it was. And so that is one thing. And then we have, I don't know the family anymore, but Mars. He's the son of of one of the, I don't think they're the great houses, but still a good house. and well established on end. And his dad has always been like this kind of scientist and analyzing the flow and studying the flow and the universe, I think, at large. But we later find out he had a special mission by the previous emperor, and so Mars is then basically tasked to inform the emperor at this point, because news can only travel through drones. There's like no connection otherwise between the different stops along the flow. So it can take like months until certain news reach certain places, because they have to actually go through all the way from start to finish. So Mars is tasked to bring this news, which I will not say what it is, of course, to the emperor, so that they can take action and they can, do the right thing, hopefully. And then there's this other girl from the other family, and I hate it that I cannot find her name. So I'm right now looking at the Wikipedia page because I was reading the reviews, and normally you find million spoiler reviews, but for this one I didn't find a single spoiler review, so people didn't mention names either. So I don't remember her name, unfortunately, but she was actually one of my favorites. She was really cool. So another house, they just landed on N for just simple trade, I think some kind of farming, plants, agriculture kind of thing. But because again, there's shit going down on End and conspiracy and plotting, so she wasn't allowed to sell her stuff, and she got very mad at that. And she, well, at the beginning I thought she was like one of these very over the top, too much power woman that's not actually a real woman kind of thing, and that's just a sad attempt at making a good female character by just giving her too much power. But no, she's just very vile-mouthed, very loud and powerful, because she is one of the greatest houses, and so she somehow ends up together with Mars, and eventually she's the one taking Mars on her ship, going back towards the hub. I don't remember what the hub was called, if it had a special name, but where the emperor resides. So towards the end we all come sort of more or less together. And basically the emperor has decided what to do now with those news. Oh my god, I am already 24 minutes in recording. At least I can cut out while I was searching, so it's a little bit less. But long story short, this was really cool. I really enjoyed it. It took me maybe a small moment to get into it, to be perfectly honest. This very different kind of like universe, and then like I said, the female protagonist at first seemed like, okay, yet again, I just overly too strong, just too much everything female. That's the only way they can make good female characters. But no, she turned out to be slightly more complex, and I hope she has even more complexity to her. She's still somewhat one-sided, you know, the super powerhouse that is man hungry and cannot speak a single sentence without cursing. So I hope there will be a little bit more to her as well. But already the way she acted and the few things that she did made me more interested in her and see her more like a regular character, if you will. But yeah, anyway, so that was The Collapsing Empire by John Scalzi. And the next one, we have one more book that I read in July. Let me go to that, and that is, oh yeah, House of Hunger by Alexis Henderson. I'm gonna go straight into and say, actually I have two more books in July. House of Hunger, not my favorite. I did leave this one unrated, I can say that already, because I think my expectations were just completely off, and so because my expectations weren't fulfilled, the book wasn't fulfilling, if that makes sense. But anyway, so House of Hunger is about sort of like Victorian era-ish piece, where we have exactly not. So we have certain families, I think it's specifically families, rich families in the north, that get something that is called a blood maid. And that is the book's own description. That's basically a whore that also gives blood. So there are maids that literally go to houses to bleed. They take blood out of them and they consume that blood. So very vampire-esque, and And though the blur didn't mention vampires, and I was very aware of that, somehow in my head I just somehow had the expectation that this will turn into, well, this is the way the vampires made it like possible to hide, you know, like by actually being open but not being fully open. And I was kind of expecting, because they were saying like, oh, like in the blur it said like, oh, but the bloodmates never return from this house. And I was like, okay, so there must be some supernatural thing going on, vampires, and maybe give them different names. But I was wrong. We have normal human beings just being weirdos. And oops. And yeah, so so we then follow, oh god, I also don't remember her name, unfortunately. I'm very sorry. Let me just see if it says it right at the start. Was it Marion? Marion! Yay! Marion Shaw. So we follow Marion. She's one of those, long story short, she has a shitty life. So bloodmates, like, they get promised very, very nice like living once they, I think they need to serve, was it 3 years? I don't remember. 7 years, 10 years, very different years. I know, but I don't remember which one it was. But they have to serve a certain amount of years, and if they do that, they basically get paid for the rest of their lives as a sort of pension or whatever you want to call it. So she ends up there in the House of Hunger title, and she gets accepted as bloodmate. And in the beginning we just learn how is their day. In the morning they get up, they sit on a chair, they bleed, and they take blood out of them. They are fed a lot of chocolate and like sweets to keep them from not getting dizzy, but that makes very little sense because that will only help short term. But in general, like, they do have like nice, they have like this blood made outfit, of course, and there's several bloodmaids for that woman. I don't remember her name, but the thing. And then, yeah, basically, as said, stuff gets darker, and one of the girls feels worse and worse, and then she leaves, or does she? That's then a mystery, and the main woman. Okay, so let's get to why I also have problems with it, not just because it didn't turn out to be vampires. So the woman that's the leader of the House of Hunger. Sorry, I don't remember her name. She has like, or that's pretty normal apparently. They have like caps that make vampire fangs, basically, that they put on the teeth. So that is one thing that's kind of weird, because you would probably constantly cut yourself, right? No, I don't know. Anyway, so she sometimes bites them as a vampire directly with that. But the problem is now, in vampire lore, or in some of the vampire lores, it really depends how much you want to, but in one of the lores is like that a bite by a vampire, though maybe the first piercing pain hurts, it's often otherwise then described as being ecstatic and like euphoric, and a good feeling, pleasurable, and that's why a vampire can just kill you and won't just constantly scream while he's biting you. So even if you're slowly dying, it feels good to you. And that makes sense because it's a supernatural creature. So there I can believe it, that when they bite, that it has that effect. But now you're telling me a regular woman that has sharpened her teeth, if you will, with caps or however, and is biting you, that hurts like hell. and I just could not accept. And so Marion basically falls in love with her. And I was so not on point with that. I'm sorry if that's a spoiler. And also in the beginning, there's a small backstory. She lives with her brother, but he's a piece of shit. I'm sorry, he really is. He hits her, he threatens her, he strangles her. Yeah, the works, all of it. And basically tells her she belongs to him. Ugh, disgusting. So yeah, and in the book she keeps thinking back, because the way she leaves is she has to wrestle this ticket to get out and get to the House of Hunger, away from him, and he falls and hits his head and dies. Again, small spoiler, I suppose. But my point is, she then keeps thinking like that's a bad thing. I mean, I understand like you didn't want to kill someone, and I understand in the beginning she's distraught, but like weeks and weeks and weeks after, when she's like an established flatmate, she started like it just didn't make sense, the amount of compassion she had for her brother, who almost killed her on a daily basis. Like not even, yeah, Stockholm syndrome, which apparently doesn't even exist. I don't know, but you know what I mean. Not even that is that strong. It's just, I don't know. It just was too far removed from logical for me. The way also Marion falls in love with the woman that literally hurts her on a daily basis did also not make sense to me. Because again, there were no supernatural aspects. There is maybe some I don't know. So apparently the leader of the House of Hunger, the woman, she has a sickness, an illness that's called the hunger. So apparently she must consume blood in her case. So you could say she's sort of vampire adjacent, but at the same time it's framed as a sickness, not so much supernatural. So again, it just didn't work for me. It just made no sense. Like, okay. And then also the ending was way too drawn out for my taste. Way too drawn out. It was just, yeah, no. It just, yeah, didn't like, you know, all the things that when you're trying to flee a place that can go wrong, a la super duper horror movies cliche, all of those happen. And it was just like not enjoyable. So yeah, but I left it unrated because I thought maybe this works for someone. I don't know. I couldn't rate it. I didn't really know why. And let me see, that's it then. No, one more, sorry. So again, If on a Winter's Night a Traveler by Italo Calvino, also read in July, because that was my vacation month, so I read a lot. Book number 4. This one is a book about books in a sense. So basically, it's very interesting, written in sometimes in the second person, like you get up and you read this and you and you and you and so forth and so forth. However, the protagonist or the you person is very male in my opinion, so there was a disconnect there for me for that reason. It didn't feel neutral enough that it could be a female, but small side note, but basically so you read a book and then it suddenly takes stop, and the rest of the in the copy is like repeated pages, and it's a false copy. So then suddenly it changes to third person, and then this person goes to the store and tries to figure out. I think it changes to third because it does go a little bit forth and back. No, actually that's still in the second person. So you then go back to the store and you want a new copy that is complete, and then you get another book. But it's a different story this time, but same thing happens there, and the story starts and then suddenly it stops. And then basically this concept keeps going. So next time you go there, and then someone else reads you something, and it's the beginning of the story, and then you try to find the continuation of that story, and then when you do that you find another story, and so on and so forth. And it keeps going like that for like 13, 14, 15 chapters, which means that many short stories, or beginnings of stories, if you will. And that was an interesting read. I had very big troubles getting through this, if I'm perfectly honest. I don't know what it was. I left this one unrated because I feel like I wasn't in the right mindset. I wasn't like there to see the deeper meaning, if you know what I will, and like maybe connect the different stories and maybe what is happening in the real world and things like that. I was just not in that kind of headspace. And so I kind of left this one on, like, because I can't know like what I feel about it. I thought it was a very interesting concept and I kind of want to love it. But it hadn't fully clicked. But I have actually decided I will most probably reread this one at some other point when I'm fully ready for what this book offers me. But yeah, that's basically it. So it has no, in that sense, story, cohesive story. You do follow the you protagonist sort of, but also, yeah, it's different, and I like different. But like I said, I wasn't in the right headspace for that one, so underrated. And those were the July books that I had already filmed a video about. I should have said more or less the same thing, yeah, pretty sure. But so now you know, so I'm going to put my iPad away because now we have the actual books available to us. Alrighty. And continuing with my August reads. First one was Rendezvous with Rama by Arthur C. Clarke. So this is a sci-fi, obviously, or from the cover, obviously, where we discover a sort of object, I guess. They don't know what it is. So basically, we're in the future, and we like monitor our soul universe to predict meteors and things like that. And then one day, something that first looks like a meteor, but then it's too fast moving and things like that, so we don't really know what it is, shows up on these scanners, and so they dub it Rama. And so basically, in the end, because they can't figure out what it is, a ship is sent to go there and investigate. And so that's why Rendezvous with Rama. So they land on the object. Again, like there's no minerals that they can recognize. Everything is different. They do find openings that are like airlocks, and they manage to go inside. And so they kind of feel like, okay, this is probably an alien spaceship itself that they now discovered. So then this group goes inside and starts basically investigating. And what I really enjoy, so in the beginning everything's pitch black, so they have no like, it's just closed down, there's no light, nothing's just pure darkness. But they do find a stairs or a ladder after some point, so they can then climb down. And then also at some point inside the spaceship, the gravity shifts. So how was it? No, so the higher up you are, the less gravity you have. So in the beginning, they're like almost falling, so they need to be careful that they like hold on to the rails so they don't, because once the gravity would take you will probably die when you fall. And then, but at some point they have to actually climb, because then the gravity has them and they need to use their strength. I'm sorry if I described it really badly. It's very, very well and very nice described in this book. I really enjoyed reading that and imagining that in my head. So then they build like camps, and they go into different direction, and they realize there's a sea or a lake of sorts in there, because it's huge. I don't remember, they say it several times how big it is, but it's like, yeah, very, very huge. And so this is what this book is about, how they discover the insides, what they look at, and at some point suddenly suns sort of open up, but it's like lights on the side, and then it's bright all day instead. And after that happens, by one of the outings, where a guy with a bike that can apparently fly if you pedal. Yeah. And he was apparently known for being a racer with that. He was the one that took it on him to fly on the other side of the water, because they realized they couldn't get into the water because it had no oxygen, I think, and there was something else. I think it had like toxins in it or something not very good for you. But anyway, so so something happens, and suddenly we realize there's also weird creatures, and there's this one robot looking like creature that starts to collect scrap. And then even in their main camp where they are, like say they throw away a can of water, the thing will come and clean it up. So it was like cleaning robots. So they seem to do nothing, but like the more we go on, the more like things are coming up, and they obviously have to constantly report back to Earth and to like the United Nations or space. I don't know, they have a name for it, like the combination of everyone, not just Earth but also Mars and Moon and so on and so forth. So, but nothing seems to be violent, maybe. you can tell when you read it. You can make your own interpretation. But of course, it's scary. It's unknown. They still, even after all this time, they can't really determine like what these things are made of, how they suddenly came alive, and things like that. In the water, it turns out there is also a huge thing, and stuff like that. And so some people get scared, and then some people may take some action, and we have then basically a race to hope and save as much as we can. So yeah, that was Rendezvous with Rama. I like this one. I don't remember how many stars I gave it. I will probably look it up, and then you see the little star sign somewhere next to me for this one. So yeah, that was book number 1. So in August I read 3 books. Book number 2 was Recursion by Blake Crouch. Okay, this is going to be maybe a bit controversial. So this wasn't my favorite one. I don't fully remember if I gave it 3 stars or even 2.5. So first, what it's about. So we have, oh god, also what's her name? We have the detective Barry Sutton, right? And Helena, right? Okay, good. Which are the main guys. What's the baddie? I don't know if he's named in the blur. He's not named in the blur. Okay, anyway. So Barry is, as just said, he's a detective in New York, and Helena, she's like a scientist, and her mom is suffering from Alzheimer, and she's always been a brain scientist, so she's like trying to find ways to like restore memories once they're lost, or to keep memories, and so on and so forth. And they're suddenly she has like tried to apply for like what's it called, funding, so that she can do that research, because she needs a lot of money. And then suddenly this dude turns up saying, hey, I can give you all the money and all the equipment, the best team, whatever you need, but you have to do it on my oil station that he bought, and we have to do it together and things like that. And she's like, okay, great, finally I can do it. So she goes with that. And Barry is investigating, or in the beginning when we are with Barry first time, there was unfortunately a woman that jumped from the roof. He couldn't save her. She said she had a memory of a husband and a child that was false. So this is then something that is called the false memory syndrome. It's like a sickness that befalls certain people. They suddenly have apparently very vivid, very real feeling memories of people, events, and like her, like husband plus son, but they're not real, they don't exist. And so she then killed herself because she could not live with a son that she never even had, which is very sad. But he then starts investigating a little bit more into this false memory syndrome because of a thing that she mentioned. She mentioned that she called her husband, because that's actually a real person that is alive, and because apparently I think she says something like I hoped he would save me, like I hoped he would understand and come and save me from jumping, or something like that. So that intrigued him, and so Barry's investigating that. And so now it's going to be difficult to say why I have issues with this book without, well, talking about it. So I kind of have to spoil it. But before we go into the spoiler section, so firstly, basically, Helena does her research, and he's investigating this false memory syndrome, and obviously they're interlinked. She's researching memory and false memory syndrome. So yeah, and in the end, they start working together and trying to fix stuff. Yeah, I think that's all I can do for non-spoil. So yeah, so from now on, spoilers. You'll have the flames around me, or whatever I'll do with the spoiler sign. Okay, so what happens is that Helena accidentally invents a time machine, sort of. So if you programmed one of your memories into the machine that she built, and that was just what she meant to use it for Alzheimer, like that she could set her mom in this chair, she would recall stuff, like save it, and then when the mom forgets it, it could be re-uploaded into her brain. That was the initial idea. However, so when you now code one of your memories into this machine, you can then go into a deprivation tank, water, die in there by getting a cocktail of drugs that kills you, while at the same time this memory is uploaded to you. And what then happens is that you time jump into that memory, into that exact point. And that is how also the false memories come into play. So I mean, if this is just a few minutes, it's no problem. So, and I need to make examples, because otherwise, also, I would have been way better argumenting this if I had recorded this right after I finished the book. But so let's make a few more simpler examples. So one is that let's say we just go back a couple of minutes. Like also, it needs to be a very strong memory, so it can't just be any memory. Like it needs to be very vivid, strong, and stuff like that to function. So this guy who they used to test this on, he's like remembering just a few minutes earlier when I think he got a tattoo. Was it a tattoo? Yeah, something like that. They did something to him that is like painful. And so that was the memory they reactivated. So he went back, but then he could like, so for him time, so in his perspective, he went back, right? In time, relived the same thing again, but then, was it before going into the tank or after? I don't remember. Oh God, okay. Because now I'm trying to redo the example that actually happened in the book. Maybe I just need to make my own example, because I can't fully remember. But basically what happens, so he lived through these 10 minutes one more time. While for other people, so say he's dead in the tank, and Helena was about to smash the controls. And so he's then, from her point of view, he's teleported out of the tank into the room, and he stops her. That's her point of view, because she didn't relive the 10 minutes, right? So he went back, got his tattoo, and then basically knew, okay, I have to rush into the control room in order to stop them from destroying the machine. Because that was what now I remember, something like that. Maybe not 100% that, but something like that was what it was, because that was the bad guy, I don't remember his name, instructed him to do. So in her mind, she was just about to smash it, because the guy had just died in the tank, and he comes and grabs her arms and, hey, I'm here. It's like, what the fuck? I understand, I can follow that. It's a pretty clear and okay rule to follow. And also, what happens when now these 10 minutes have passed for him, or at the point when he teleports, at that point everyone gets a headache that is included in that memory. And they suddenly also remember this 10 minutes that he lived. Okay? So now we get into the weird stuff and why I have issues with it. So, again, the tester guy, he relives the 10 minutes. Only he. He goes back in time. No one else. But, of course, everyone else is there where he relives it. And apparently, at that moment in time, they don't yet know that he is the one that has come back in time. Like they just proceed as normal, so they don't get the headaches and all that. That only happens once you catch up to the point when the death was. And so he relives it, and say that he, as I said, he suddenly runs out of the tattoo studio in order to run to the control room. That is already a break in sequence. That's not what happened the first time. The first time he was then prepped for the tank. He went inside the tank, and they killed him in the tank. So everyone involved somehow in this, and that's also never like clearly explained. Maybe the whole station, assumingly, or something like that. Like it's not proximity, I guess it's just who interacts with him or whatever, I don't know. So again, so for them, all they remember is the life they live so far, which is him dying in the tank. Again, that's their perspective. He just died in a tank. Helena is about to smash the thing. And so, again, so for them it's a teleport of the dude. He teleports into the room and stops Helena. And again, so then the 10 minutes have passed, and at that point memories are shared. And so at that point that he died in the tank, because that then didn't happen, is replaced with him running out of the tattoo studio, which they cannot know because they were nowhere nearby, but they then, Helena suddenly does not remember prepping him for the tank because she never did it. Instead, she gets the new memories, which are the new real timeline, which is they never actually prepped him. And then it wouldn't work. That she's standing there in the control room trying to smash the thing. And this is already very happy, because I think that's already the first time when this doesn't work. So there's a huge problem with who remembers what and when and why. And obviously this goes worse and worse and worse. Like the 10-minute example was actually meant to be an example where it fits and where it kind of works. But we start then going back years and months and God knows how much. Because apparently when we start the book and Helena builds the machine, that was the second time she did. The first time was somewhere completely else. She did get funding eventually, and the guy that's the bad guy, he was just a little assistant. But he somehow then managed, because it was an accident, this discovery, but he already knew that this is what Helena will discover, because he had already lived it in the previous version. And so he apparently went back in time, firstly to become a millionaire so he could fund it, because he had future knowledge of all trades somehow. I guess he just pressed that into his mind somehow, photographic memory, maybe, I don't know, I don't believe it. Anyway, and so he went back months and months, or maybe even years, I don't know, so that he can approach Helena before she gets the eventual funding and then offer that which we read. So then it's actually the second time she creates that machine with the accidental result, but he already knew that this is the result of her research. And that is weird. It is discussed in the book, because at some point very, very, very much later, apparently she suddenly gets memory of this previous first timeline, right? And how that all worked out. And it's at the point of when he died and killed himself to go back to a previous memory, so he could be the one controlling this machine and having the power, so to speak. And basically then, and what happened with the detective, come back to Barry. So this was a husband that was allowed to go back in time because his yeah, I think how was it? Yeah, his real wife jumped from a building, right? So not the lady that jumped that Barry couldn't save, but someone else. So he went back, and then he married anyway. The lady that we learned had a kid with her, but he could never forget his first wife, and so he used the memory machine to go back, save his first wife from jumping, and then he stayed with her. And then so the other woman then ended up never meeting him, ended up never being his wife, ended up never having a kid with him. And so these memories she had were real, but they just hadn't happened in that timeline. Starting to get it? So that was what happened there. And he's kind of figures it out, and he is, and that happens in like a hotel, in a bar. And so you understand the implication and the complication with this. And the scale. So this bad guy, so once Helena is gone from the rig, because she manages to flee in the end, he either rebuilds the machine, I don't remember that part, and then again, offers it to just random people. And that just wouldn't work. Like, stuff would be constantly reset, and yes, we have the false memory syndrome and stuff like that, but again, because then what happens is that Barry finds the hotel, and he wants to, well, he's there with gun as a policeman, so they overwhelm him and they force him to go back to a memory, and he had lost his daughter. So, because they ask him, what is the worst memory of your life? And then he is like forced to retell it so they can program the memory, and then they kill him, and then he goes back years and years to before his daughter died, so that he can warn her, because it was a hit and run, so he can warn her, and then she doesn't die. And then he lives through 10-15 years with his daughter, until the day when he had found the hotel and was killed in the tank. And then at that point, everyone remembered that his daughter was dead, but also she had now lived these 15 years. And you see the scale of things. Like, this is not just the closest family, such as grandma and granddad, are interested in this. These are colleagues, these are your friends, these are her friends. Everyone she's somehow in contact with is now remembering that, is she dead, is she alive? And you could say, yes, this is genius, this is so cool, and for a while I did really like it, but like, the bigger it got, the less sense it made. And then again, so one problem then is, when do these memories come? Because what then happens in the end? So again, Barry and Helena apparently meet at some point. We never actually get to see that, because we are, again, Barry is at one point teleported. Because that's the other thing, when does the teleportation happen? Because that's also not very clearly explained. Where he's suddenly with Helena, and Helena explains him that, hey, we used to work together, I'm the inventor of this thing. And in her thoughts, we learn that apparently they were even lovers. And it's like, oh, okay, that happened out of book. That's very, like, fine, but very, oh, okay. We just have to accept it. It's just told to us by her. It's like, oh no, he doesn't remember how much he loves me. And I was like, oh. Anyway, that again, that's not really the big one. So what in the end happens, government learns that there is some shit going on, and obviously they take control of the machine, and they force Helena to cooperate. It's like, well, we can do it without you, or you can try to have a say in it. And at first they try to like keep it only CIA or whichever government blah blah bullshit thing has it at the very beginning, but eventually it opens up, and so they want to do assassinations, they want to go back, they want to save soldiers, and it becomes a huge, well, bloody mess. And so I don't now fully remember how, but somehow Helena manages to go back into a memory when she's a teenager. But then she's a teenager with an adult mind, knowing everything that is about to happen. And she does that in order to find Barry, and then together with Barry try and find a way out of this loophole, because what happens when the day comes where she killed herself and went back into the memory, at that moment everyone remembers, right? Everyone remembers what has happened, and then the government gets angry and they try to find Helena and Barry and basically take back control of the machine. And other governments in other countries are like threatening the Americas, like, if you do this one more time, if we one more time suddenly regain memories from yet another timeline, then we will start nuclear war on you. And so the stakes are high and stuff like that. But then, so trouble is that, again, so at the moment when she dies, that's when everyone gets the memory. So for her, she lives consecutive, more or less. She goes back, she goes forward, she goes back, she goes forward. Everyone else is jumping, sort of. So, but also they're not. Because in their new life, she meets Barry normally. Like, he goes to a bar, she knows which bar it is. They accidentally meet and they hit it off, and eventually she can tell him what this is all about, and he eventually believes her. But he doesn't have the memories from the previous life. So he's also just moving normally, and here's where we have the problem. So in the lifetime, because then there is 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 Barrys. So Barry, the Barry that knows everything, right? He just saw Helena kill herself to go back to teenage Helena. What we established in the first scene when we did the 10-minute test, teleportation. So Barry then lived a life where he met Helena. He didn't meet his other wife, and he never had a daughter. He met Helena, and she slowly explained to him, and they were trying to figure out a way out of that everyone should get back the memory, so no one remembers the machine, so they can finally destroy it. That's the end goal. That's a good goal. But the Barry that, because the problem is it's at one point described as suddenly he wasn't looking at that Helena in the tank anymore. He was in a house and Helena was right next to him, and she could see in his eyes that now he had his memories. And that's when it gets just really weird and very like, well, how does then that work? So then it would be for original Barry, it's not, for him it's not him gaining the memory back from what is actually happening, from knowing all about the time machine and all that jazz, but it's, for him, he teleports physically to some other place and then gains the memory of the life that he, the original Barry, didn't live, but that for Helena, as the new right now timeline happened, right? And that is two very different things. Because the problem is, if we are always original Barry teleporting, we know everything, right? What then happens towards, and then they keep trying that, and apparently, I don't even remember how many times she has to relive 40 years of life, or however many days, I don't remember, or 30 or 20, in order to get to the point where, when she killed herself and went back the first time. So they have to do it again and again and again and again. And then it switches perspective to Helena and Barry waking up. He's regaining his memories. Again, for Barry, it was a teleportation. For her, it's him becoming awake, if you will. But then they like describe that he needs time to remember everything. Like, it takes time. And at the same time, at that moment, the whole world also remembers. And apparently, they don't need time. They can immediately press the nuclear bomb button, and then like 5 minutes later, 10 minutes later, 20 minutes later, they're already there. And there's nuclear holocaust happening. And they know that this happens. And in the book, just to create, false tension, false drama, false bullshit, they're never near the machine so that she can go back one more time and restart one more time until they found a way to solve this problem. So we have then also them constantly fighting to get to the machine and her not dying so that she can actually go back. And it's just so stupid. At one point there's like a SWAT team coming into their house, and it's like, how the fuck do they even know where she lives? Up until this point, they didn't know she existed. And within 1 hour, even if it's 1 hour, how would they figure out in 1 hour? Obviously they use false identities. Would they know and go there and be there and have a full SWAT team ready? Maybe that's an option. I don't know. To me, it felt wrong. But why, when you fucking know that this exact time on this exact day shit goes down, why wouldn't you be near the fucking machine and ready to press the button and be done with it? No, they're always miles away. They go for a walk because they want to enjoy, like, when he's on the same level with her. And so, yeah. Next thing that happens that makes, I'm sorry, I know this is taking time, but I really want to explain why this doesn't work for me. next thing that doesn't happen, one timeline, she just doesn't go to Barry. She leaves him alone because she doesn't want to do it to him, so to speak. Do what? So then we are again in Barry's perspective. So from seeing her dying in the tank, because they have to restart, he's teleported to somewhere else. He has again that other wife, he has again a dead daughter. And the time happens and he regains his memory. But somehow he's near the original bad guy. Or he goes there and suddenly he has enough time for that. I don't know. But anyway, he then gets a hint that they need to return to the original timeline or something like that. That is the only way to stop other people from remembering. Okay, that's a very cheap answer to the loophole in my opinion, but whatever. And so then he knows that, but he has no idea where Helena is because he's just back with his family somewhere in New York and had just talked to the dude. And right then, like, bombs are going down and all that shit. And then again, from his perspective, he's teleported because Helena then resets the timeline. Again, another 20 years pass. Again, and now, again, from his perspective, we're teleporting. So he's again then suddenly next to Helena. But for some reason, at that moment, he doesn't remember what he just had learned. He doesn't remember that he just had learned that the original timeline is the solution. And so, yeah, I think that's enough. So all of this together, from it making sense and being quite cool and still large scale, but in a scale that was understandable. Also, at one point, a building suddenly appeared. And then people got memories of having seen it all the time, but it actually just appeared from one second to the next. Again, because other people teleport, so to speak. But it wouldn't make sense that, I don't know, would they teleport or... because they would have all lived different lives and they would be where they were in their lives. So yes, everyone would teleport, not the building appear. Well, that too. But you most probably wouldn't maybe be in the exact same location. Maybe you would, I don't know. So again, so things just, in the end, were too plot holey, too not explained too much. Well, this is the way to do it, suddenly. So, yeah. Because of that, I can't say I liked it. It was too convoluted. They tried to reach too far and too high and too much and too complex, that it failed, and he went against his own rules and just made it a huge mess. So I know this is very loved and many people really like it, but especially when it's something like this, I will be there with my whole brain and I will analyze and I will try my best to understand it and I will be there. But then, so when it doesn't work, as this one, then it doesn't work. And so yeah. Okay, I talked, was it like half an hour about this book? Anyway, let's close off. Last book, Ernest Hemingway, Islands on the Stream. Classic by Hemingway. So this is about a dad living on islands around Cuba, and they're Havana, they're in that area. He is twice divorced, has 3 sons, one with the first wife and 2 with the second. And it's basically about living there on the island. He has a friend, is it Robert? Because his name is Thomas Hudson. Mr. Davy. I remember because the kids keep calling him Mr. Davy, so I remember that one. Let's just say Mr. Davy. He's a really good friend, and so it's about his sons are about to come visit him, and he's very happy about that. And they have sort of not family drama. Oh, and he's a painter, which is also really cool. And what I should mention, this is an old school book. You have black people involved in here that are not treated nicely. Some are, some aren't. They're often cursed at and dismissed, so warning for that. that's in this book. It's older, so yeah, unfortunately that was more that was common back then, but that's still good to know that that's included in here. But other than that, like, the focus is definitely on Thomas Hudson and his family, and yeah, so we have like different areas of his life. So again, first when he's there and the kids are coming, and Mr. Davy and all that, and we also talk about women problems and things like that. Then we have the second part, which is when, is that Cuba? Yeah, that's Cuba, is the second part. Yes. And then the last one is the at sea. Yes. Yeah. So so what then happens? Ooh, that's a spoiler. Yeah. Okay. No. So we go to Cuba. So like we go forward in his life. So at some point he's in Cuba for very sad reasons, and we see his life there, how he's kind of drinking a lot and not so great life. And then the last part is at sea, so I'm going very shortly and very slowly because I can't really explain, because there's reasons why things happen, but I can't say why, so it's difficult. And at sea, it's him literally at sea. He's a captain, and now we are, I guess, in the Second World War. This was published in 1970s, during 1940s, yes. So Second World War is now currently happening at the last part when he's at sea. He's a sea captain, and they find a burnt down and massacred village by Germans, and then they basically hunt after these Germans, and that's a slightly like removed in a sense from the others, as it has no real, like, Cuba happens because of what happened on the islands there at the end, but this one is like more a continuation. Like, okay, of course he was drafted, or maybe joined in voluntarily, and so they are hunting the Germans who did this massacre, and it's just like sailing, and yeah, it's very exciting, and them like trying to find them and trying to like think as the Germans would, like which gulf and which stream would they take and where could they go and things like that. So that was very exciting. So all in all, a little bit big for me. Certain parts were quite drawn out, especially in the beginning, more so than in the end. But at the same time, it was very, very, very nice descriptions. Like, wow, somehow very, very clear, and I could really see it in my mind. So all in all, I did enjoy it, besides a little bit too dragged out. I don't remember what I gave it, but I think I gave it a 4-star. It could be a 3.5, 4. It's somewhere there in between, just because of the length. The length, in my opinion, we could keep the descriptions, but we could definitely cut down on the length. But yeah, okay, let's end this video. Oh my goodness, this was so long. So now I have only those 3 books with me right now. So these were my August books. And yeah, and you heard about my July books as well. So one summer in one video. I hope you enjoyed, and also I hope you're taking care of yourself. It's very important to take care of ourselves, and yeah, don't have so much more to say. Just have a lovely rest of your day. See ya, bye bye.